So after a couple near disasters with the pre-production model of the Speediance adjustable bench, I was sent the version that customers will get now if they make their order to see if it's something you can add on to your Speediance products. And as a quick disclaimer, I was sent the Speediance adjustable bench for free to make this review. And with that, I wanted to make sure I could give my honest feedback on the product so they have no say in what I had to present here, and that is why I'm moving forward with making this review. If afterwards you'd still like to make this purchase or anything else you see from Speediance, feel free to use code GamerBody at checkout to save $120 off your order. A small commission is sent back to GamerBody to continue making reviews and other videos like this one. With that out of the way, let's go take a look at the Speediance adjustable bench. So this bench can be used with both the Gym Monster and Gym Pal. Those are the two major products that Speediance has to date. Jumping over to the Speediance sales pages, you will see that as of shooting this video, some of those packages have this adjustable bench while others don't, but the Gym Pal product only has one current option with the Pro Max bundle, so you will get it with that purchase if you go with the Gym Pal. But if you have the Gym Monster, the packages that include the adjustable bench are the Works Plus, Family Plus, Works Plus Max, and the Family Plus Max. And these prices may vary depending on when you are looking at these. I'm going to throw them on screen, but just make sure that depending on when you purchase this price may go up and down. But maybe you already have one of these products, or you decide to buy it later. If you do, as of right now, the bench can be bought separately for $319 from their website and added to your order. So now let's take a look at unboxing the Speediance adjustable bench. Overall, this was a very easy unboxing. Most of it is put together. You only have additional bars that go with the Gym Pal if you'd like to install them. But if you're using it with the Gym Monster, you just have to unfold the legs and put in two screw-in bolts that keep those in place. Now, if you're using it with the Gym Pal, there are two additional bars you need to put on the bottom that go in an X symbol. That way, when you put it on top of the Gym Pal, it has a brace to keep the platform from raising off the floor if you are using a lot of resistance in your exercises. For example, if you're doing something like a bench press, when you're pushing up away from yourself, if you have a lot of tension, you can actually lift that platform off the ground when you use it. So by having the middle bars, it keeps it anchored to the floor so that this doesn't happen. But do know it adds on a little bit of weight and size to the overall structure of the adjustable bench, but is required if you're using the Gym Pal. So with the unboxing of this bench, you should receive the following. First, the Speediance adjustable bench itself. With that, you get two twist screw support nails that go in to anchor down the legs. Also, you get a long support beam and a short support beam that go in that X symbol in order to put on top of the Gym Pal. So once the bench is fully assembled, it should come in with dimensions as follows. So the full length of the bench itself lying flat comes in at about 46 inches. Now the feet that anchor onto the floor have a distance between them of about 35 inches, and the feet themselves are 16 inches by 3.25 inches by 1.5 inches. Now just the backrest, if you're looking at the length for that, comes in at 32 inches by 11.5 inches, and then a depth or thickness of 1.5 inches. And now for the adjustable bench part, it has 7 different positions you can put the little anchor piece into on the bench, and it gives you the angles as follows. So the first one, of course, is you have a 0-degree angle on the bench, but next up you're going to move to a 20-degree angle, from there to 30-degree angle, from there to 45, next up is 60, then to 75, and then to a 90-degree angle. So those are the 7 different positions and angles you can put the bench in. But looking at the seat, it only has 2 options. You either just lay it flat, or you can put it up at a slight angle where it has a little brace on the bottom you just flip down and put on it in order to sit on it without it moving. Now this doesn't lock in or anything, so you can still lift up that seat. So just know it is kind of just like an extra piece that I don't really use, but it is available if you want to use it. So let's now go over how you actually set up the angles for the bench. So once again, you have it all built and set up and ready to go. What you're going to do is you're going to find the locking mechanism for the angle you like underneath the seat itself. So the seat actually can slide left and right on the brace that it is on, and then you lock it into the angle by having it click in, and then you actually turn it, I believe, right in order to lock it in place. Make sure that you turn it right to lock it, or else it might actually come undone if you put a lot of resistance on the back rest. So just make sure you lock it in place before using it. To take it down, you would actually twist it left to unlock it, and then you pull out the pin. So again, it kind of locks in, so you pull it out to unlock it, and then you can move it the seat left or right to change the angle of the bench. So I'm going to quickly cover why I was actually sent the second bench because of some testing I'd originally done that was changed in later updates. It was actually a couple days later. They made some changes that have gone into effect, and I'm happy to say it actually did fix the bench, but here's what was happening before. So in my pre-production model that I got, when I had set the bench to an angle and used anything over 50 pounds, the backrest actually gave out and I went actually crashing down to the flat position again. So that's kind of scary, as it happened to me 3 times in testing. I can pull way more than 50 pounds doing something like a chest supported row, which is the exercise I was doing. So then all of a sudden, basically my chest would just fall down to the flat. So you can imagine what that's like going from an incline to flat all of a sudden very quickly when using the bench itself. So luckily, they made all the changes and sent me this new bench. So now when I do things way over 50 pounds, so I'll actually go over this in a minute, but I can actually go double that amount now and still use it just fine. So now that I have the new bench, I want to make sure that this was safe for you to use, at least up to double the weight I was using before. So here's the test I ran. The first one was pretty easy at just 30 pounds of resistance on the machine, and the bench held that just fine. So next up, I went to the weight that actually failed on the previous bench, and that's the 50 pounds to do the chest supported row, and that also worked just fine. So now I thought, let's double that and see if double the resistance can now hold my weight. So again, this is all my body weight on the bench and 80 pounds of resistance to pull against, and again, it held up just fine. So it's pretty safe to say that they made some good changes to this so that it now holds my body weight as needed for the exercise of at least bench pressing or incline bench pressing and chest supported rows with an incline. However, I want to cover a big issue I just ran into that is potentially very dangerous if you're not aware of it. So this is going to be for seated chest pressing using the vertical bars in your setup. So on screen, I'm going to demonstrate what this exercise is, but I'm going to have no resistance on the bar, as I've actually had this issue twice now, and both times almost got injured, so I don't want to do it again. But with no resistance, nothing really happens. So in this setup, basically when you're doing the chest pressing, you have the bench kind of almost vertical behind you. Yes, you have it braced up against your back, which is what you want, so your chest focuses on doing most of the heavy pushing, but when you are actually doing the exercise and then you load up something more like 50 pounds, again, it seems like 50 pounds is one of these numbers, but if I do 50 or more pounds, my weight plus the bench isn't enough to overcome the force from throwing me backwards into the wall behind me. So when I first did this, I can actually chest press about 80 pounds on the machine or more. So I had it set to 80. So you can only imagine that I had my hands ready to go kind of like up in front of me, ready to push. And then all of a sudden I was launched back into my wall. This is extremely dangerous because I instantly just had to let him go, pretty much almost dislocating my arms. And also I'm lucky I didn't damage my wall when doing it. However, you will see a slight scratch on the top of the Speediance Gym Monster that was left from doing this on the second attempt. So I actually lowered it to 50, did it again, and still got thrown backward into the wall, and it left a marking on the top of the Speediance Gym Monster, which I'm not a big fan of. Now, this only seems to happen when you have your back to the bench and you're pressing directly away. Now, I can do things like the pullovers, so when I have the bar up above me and do the pullover, I can kind of catch myself before I get thrown. If you did have the bar down, say like by your waist, you might run into the same problem, but at least your arms can kind of go back up without getting injured. But because the chest pressing has your arms in like that kind of awkward position, if it's overpowering you with the resistance, you will probably just get thrown back or have to let them go really quickly to not get hurt. So again, I can do the pullovers just fine with it without it throwing me backwards, even with the heavier resistance. But chest pressing, do not do that exercise with this bench and the Gym Monster machine, because again, it just doesn't hold my body weight. Again, I'm about 190 pounds right now at 5'11". It could not hold my body weight and the adjustable bench when I had more than 50 pounds of resistance on the cables. So next up, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite exercises with this bench with both the Gym Monster and the Gym Pal, starting with the Gym Monster. So the first exercise on the list is for the chest, and that is going to be the incline bench press. Of course, you can do a flat one, but this one actually allows you to do an incline if you want to target a little bit more of the upper chest. Next up, we have the chest supported row. You can do this from the floor or the vertical bars, doesn't really matter, because again, if you're using the vertical bars, you can brace your feet up against the machine in order to keep you from being lunged forward. You can also, your arms now have the ability to kind of move forward with you to then put them on the vertical bars if needed, so you don't ever get thrown into the wall because you can actually just place them back in the starting position. So now you can actually do the chest supported rows with something bracing in front of you to target more of your back muscles. So my third exercise is going to be the seated overhead press. You can do this with a bar or the handles in order to do this exercise, and now you can kind of sit back on a bench and do it that way versus trying to balance and make sure you have like a tight core and everything. You can now kind of remove that and really focus on the shoulders and doing the exercise itself. So my next exercise is going to be seated bicep curls. So again, you can set up the incline or even just do it straight with the bench, and then you can just do seated bicep curls while having your back laying on the bench for some additional support. So my last exercise with the gym monster that I really like with this bench is going to be the pullover. So now you can set the bar all the way up at the highest part of the vertical bars, set that slight incline on the bench, and really get a good activation with your lats in this movement. So again, I really actually like this exercise with this bench as I'm not thrown backward and doing it this way, but do know this is one of the major exercises I actually like using with this adjustable bench setup. All right, now let's take a look at the Gym Pal and the exercises I like to do with the bench. So as before, I really like doing the incline bench press, as it's the same thing here, as well as the chest supported row, because those are coming from the ground. So again, you can do many of the same exercises, really any that are from the floor up, you can do just as well with the bench. The one that you really can't do anymore, anything the vertical bars, like the pullovers you can't really do because of the anchoring point, just doesn't make sense anymore. Or really the like seated rows, you can't do those because you can't brace against anything. You have to do it like chest supported rows with the bench. So again, anything really from the floor is good with this as long as the path of the strength curve is good with the exercise. All right, so with that, let's move on to my pros and cons of the Speediance adjustable bench, starting off with the pros. So first off, this bench is very comfortable. It is only 1.5 inches thick, but I found that this is actually very comfortable and sturdy to use for most of the exercises I have performed. And remember, I'm about 5 feet 11 inches tall and around 190 pounds right now, so it can support my weight and my height very well with the size of the current bench they have. I also do like that if you get this bench, you can use it with the Gym Pal or the Gym Monster. I think that's kind of cool, so it really doesn't matter which one you get it for, it'll work for both products. Again, I've been able to get both for free to review each option, and it works just fine for both. You do have to set up the additional crossbar attachment on the bottom for the Gym Pal, but that's really all you would need to add on if you want to use it for that product versus the Gym Monster. Also, this bench does improve many of the exercises or allows you to do some you couldn't do before. So again, like the incline bench press is a thing. Yes, you probably could have taken that flat bench and put it just off the platform so it had a little bit of incline, but now you can set that 10 or 20 degree angle, whatever you like, and really focus on doing that, as well as chest supported rows with a slight incline so that your arms can go a bit further through that range of motion. So again, it helps improve some of the exercises or adds on some additional ones that you might not be able to do without this bench itself. And my final pro is that these upgrades did make an actual change to what I experienced before. Again, I was really scared before with the original bench they sent me, but I'm glad we kind of held off and got the newer version that actually everyone gets now, as it does support my weight very well and the resistance that I picked from my exercises. So with that, now let's jump over to the cons list of the bench. My first one's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, is that when you move around the bench, the backrest and the seat aren't really locked in. They have a little bit of wiggle room, and it's kind of just annoying for me. I wish it's more like just locked into place. So say it's like flat, even when you pick up the back of the bench, so the backrest, it has a little bit of give to it, so it goes up maybe like an inch or two. Same with the seat, will actually raise a little bit. So I kind of have to, I like to grab like under the bar, but it's kind of just awkward to pick up. So one annoying thing I found with it, again, kind of a small pet peeve, but just something that annoys me in moving the bench around. My next con is that the seat angle anchor point is really small, and again, doesn't lock into the bench in any way. So basically, you lift up the bench, you fold it down, you put it down, and you sit on it. I just feel like the thing is not very big. I don't know, if you wait a lot, you might be able to like break it. I can't confirm or deny that, but it just seems like they should have a bigger angle like support there in order to help support most people's weight when using this. Also, this bench cannot go into a decline position. So if you're looking to do anything decline, you cannot, as it only goes from flat to positive angles with the bench. So just know that you cannot do decline exercises with the bench. So lastly, I don't really love the design of how you actually change the angles for the backrest on the bench. Now this is kind of big because this is how the bench actually functions. And I think it was actually one of the main reasons why the original one was actually pretty hard to work with. So again, you have to turn the dial to first unlock it, then you pull it out to remove it from the anchor point on the bench. Then you slide the bench basically left and right, like the seat of it left and right, to then change the angle that it's set at on the back side. So I just don't think this is the best design. Like other benches I've used in the past, like the Flybird, all you have to do is change the angle of the backrest, but the seat stays in place. Now I'm wondering if they did this because they needed the seat in certain positions when using it for things with the Gym Pal, so that maybe the seat needed to be more, or your center of mass needed to be over the actual Gym Pal for it not to be awkward and like come off the ground or whatnot. So I could see where that might play a factor in the design of this. I'm just not a fan of it. I wish it was easier to use. I wish it was much easier for me to set that angle versus having to move the seat back and forth, because it's not always as nice to use when trying to change the angle on the bench. And you have to like turn that thing pretty hard to make sure it stays in place and then it can support your weight when doing the exercises. So that is it for my pros and cons list of the bench. Now I'm going to go over some of my final thoughts so you can make some last decisions to see if it will work for you in your home gym setup. First off, I do think this bench is a decent upgrade for those looking to add many incline-based movements to their workouts. I like to use it mostly with things from the floor, so things like the incline bench press or incline chest supported row, even seated overhead pressing, things of that nature, the bench works very well for. Now when it comes to exercises that are up against the vertical bars for the Gym Monster, it's not as great in my opinion, because again, like chest pressing is out of the question for me moving forward, but you can still do things like chest supported rows with it, as long as you have some kind of bracing like with your feet up against the machine itself. As well as pullovers, I haven't found any issues with those. It's actually one of the main reasons I think this bench is actually worth it would be for that pullover exercises. $319 worth, I don't really know, but it is one of those exercises that does get a big improvement with this bench setup. Outside of that, this bench is very comfortable to use, is a good size for me, again at 5 feet 11 inches tall and about 190 pounds, and isn't too heavy to move around, maybe a little bit bulky, but not too heavy overall. However, looking at the price of this bench throws me off a bit, as I don't think it's worth more than $200. I don't know where they think it's worth $320. That seems like a major markup to me. I don't think if I was looking at this now, I would pay $320 for this bench. Yes, I did get it for free to make this review, and it has some pros that might be worth it for you at that price, but for me, I would probably stick to the flat bench over actually buying this separately from them. However, if you get in a package, that's one thing, but buying it separately is where I have the issue. So before you make a purchase decision, make sure that you have quite a few exercises that will actually need this bench. Otherwise, I would just stick with the flat one. I am personally probably going to just stick with the flat one. It's just the easiest for me to move around. It does 95+% of the exercises I actually do. I don't really need the extra support for any reason. So that's the reason I'm probably going to stick with the flat one for now. But again, if you want to do a lot of incline-based things that I mentioned before, that is where this bench would come in and be the better option. So with that, make sure you check out both the Gym Monster review I've made and the Gym Pal review so that you can make a decision on which product you'd like to get and then potentially add on this in one of the packaging or get later if you feel like you want to add it on to your machine.